Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So last week we switched over, or 2 weeks ago we switched over to fiqh, covering some issues that are very common and Muslims need to know, and we're talking about tahara or purification in Islam. So last week we talked about wudu and what are the requirements of wudu. You have to make sure that your watch, water gets underneath it, and if you have a ring, your water gets underneath it, and nail polish and wiping overhead, and we talked about those things. So the next section is nawaqidul wudu, the things which make you lose your wudu. So there's 3 or 4 main categories that cause you to lose your wudu. The first one, simple way to put it, is anything which comes out of your private parts. That could be urine, that could be stool, go to the bathroom. It could be pre-seminal fluid when you get aroused or attracted. It could be semen, which semen actually requires ghusl, but you need to make wudu and be purified as well. So these are the things, pretty much anything which comes out of your private part, even if it's a drop, it breaks your wudu. There's only one exception to the rule. The scholars talk about when it comes to women, there is a type of discharge that they have. There's a healthy, normal, clear, or white discharge when they're not having their period. This is one of those things that does not break the wudu. But everything else outside of that does. And it kind of makes sense because the scholars in fiqh, they explain, especially in the Hanafi school, they say because your body is the site of najasa on the inside. And these are things coming from your digestive tract. These are the 2 parts that cause everything from the digestive process to come out. And basically, an impurity is coming out of your body from your private parts, and therefore it breaks your wudu. So this is category number 1. Category number 2 is if you pass gas. So passing gas is in the same category because it's a place of digestion. When you pass gas, it obviously doesn't smell good because it has connection to the digestive system. The only exception to the rule is for women, sometimes there's a buildup of air from the front part. And if that air comes out from the front part, that is not coming from the digestive tract. And therefore, that does not break wudu. And the third thing is losing consciousness. Most people will say sleep, but it actually combined into 2. If you lose consciousness by sleeping, or if you lose consciousness by fainting, both of these are going to cause your wudu to break. And if we think about why, it's because you don't know what's going on with your body. So if you don't know what's going on with your body, you could be passing gas, something else could be happening. So because you lose that consciousness, your wudu breaks. But there's an exception to sleeping. Some of the Sahaba, if you read hadith, some of the Sahaba, they used to stay in the masjid for Isha, some other prayers, and they used to sleep, and they would get up, and they would go ahead and just continue praying, and they wouldn't remake their wudu. So if anyone's heard that hadith, they're like, well, the Sahaba slept and they didn't make wudu again. But the question is, how did they sleep? What were they doing in the masjid? See, if you read the context carefully, they didn't come in the masjid and lie down and take a nap. And then they wake up and then they start praying. So these are like some of the people who spend a lot of time in the masjid. They're making zikr, they're remembering Allah. They're sitting down in cross-legged position. Their body is upright. They're not leaning against the wall. They're not leaning against anything. And they fell asleep for just a little bit in a very light type of sleep, like, you're making zikr or something like that, and then you just kind of knock out for a moment, and then you get back up. So the scholars have explained this, and when it comes to sleep, normal sleep breaks your wudu. Any type of lying down sleep breaks your wudu. If you're leaning your back against the wall, and you knock out and you fall asleep, it breaks your wudu. If you're sitting in a chair, you lean back, and you fall asleep, it breaks your wudu. But somehow, this is pretty rare, but some people, they can actually sleep while they're in the middle of salah. You've probably seen this in Ramadan, Taraweeh, don't have a good reciter or something. Some people, they'll knock out for a few seconds, or they'll be in ruku', and they'll fall asleep for a moment. Or they'll be in sajda actually, even sajda, they'll fall asleep for a few moments while they're in sajda, or while they're in qa'dah, they're sitting down. So if you're sleeping in a way that you have absolute complete control over your body because you're upright, you're not leaning against anything, this doesn't break your wudu because you still have control of your body. We're talking about a light sleep. No one's going to deep sleep while they're standing up standing. It's a very rare situation. So generally, sleep breaks your wudu as well. So these are the three categories that are pretty much agreed upon. They break your wudu. Now, there's a few other categories when it comes to different scholars have said, well, this could break your wudu potentially, and this can that. The Hanafi school, I'll just mention, I told you to make this a comparative fiqh discussion is going to be too long. So I'm just going to stick to only two schools of thought, the Hanafi and Shafi school, because this is what most people generally follow in the world. So we have a lot of people in the world, 2 billion Muslims, alhamdulillah. The Hanafi school says something more. There's a fourth category, and that is that if any impurity comes out of any part of your body, it breaks your wudu, not just out of your private parts. So what is an impurity? Impurity is blood, it's pus, it's urine. I mean, obviously urine is not going to come out in your part of the body. Blood, pus, vomit. If it comes out of any part of your body, it's also going to break your wudu. So this is a third category, and the Hanbali school has a similar view as well, but the Maliki and Shafi school don't accept this one. So if you follow that school, this is a opinion. If you bleed, if you get a nosebleed, or you get cut somewhere, or you vomit or something like that in that school, you have to remake your wudu. And then there's a few other hadith here and there which talk about, if you eat camel meat, you have to make wudu in the Hanbali school. If you eat something that has been barbecued, has been touched by fire, what does that hadith mean? None of the scholars ever said that breaks your wudu. There's some other discussion here, but the thing that you need to know is mainly three categories. Category number one, anything comes out of your private parts, breaks your wudu. Category number two, what did we say was number two? Passing gas. It's not a liquid, so I just put it in a separate category. And number three, losing consciousness. According to the Hanafi school, any impurity comes out of any other part of your body, like blood, pus, or vomit, also is going to break your wudu. So it's very important that we have wudu, because if we don't have wudu, our salah is not going to be valid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be among the people who take wudu seriously, who take our deen seriously, who try to learn our deen and apply it in the right way. Ameen wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.